Morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the second edition of Let's Talk Cardano. My name is Alex Maza. I am the Outreach Development Officer at the Cardano Foundation. And what I do is particularly partnerships and initiatives around bringing Cardano closer to sustainability and impact. And for many of us, we probably asked ourselves the question of what if we could use blockchain technology to make the world a better place? And when speaking to a lot of the Cardano community, it feels like this is what's brought us together to work on this open platform that looks to provide economic identity at a global scale by providing decentralized applications to manage identity, value, and governance. And so today we'll be connecting with a number of different change makers in our ecosystem to see how Cardano can actually be leveraged for social good. Just to introduce our panelists today, we have Alvaro Cosi, who is the Head of Communications and Innovation at Switzerland for UNHCR, Christian Ports, the co-founder of NMaker, Rolf van Krumpen, co-founder of Turf, who will tag team with his other co-founder, Harm Lucassen, later in the discussion. His son, Michael, founder of DAP360, should join us shortly. And of course, last but not least, Joran Bensvig, who's a community member and part of the Cardano for Climate community. So just to kick this off, and a first kind of question to Joram, actually, who's been super involved in Cardano's blockchain for good community, bringing different sub-communities together around the notion of decentralized innovation for good, and really working with the Catalyst community on top of that to deliver on some of these ideals that many of us hold dear and that brought us to Cardano in the first place. So Joram, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey into Cardano and what it's been since then, and where you see the state of the ecosystem that you're engaging with?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Great being here and talk about impact. So if we go to Cardano.org, right, what we see is make the world work better for all. And that attracts a lot of people to the ecosystem, a lot of people that are looking to build systems that are not happy with the system that they see around us and looking to build system with social and environmental impact. And but this is basically what brought me and many people that we met on the ecosystem. And this technology, in essence, I mean, once you start getting in and learning about the technology, it's just kind of mind-blowing how it can be used for good, in essence, right? Decentralization, transparency, traceability, all of these elements. So when I joined the journey on Cardano about years ago, and I joined Melanie and Nori, and we kind of initiated Cardano for Climate. And through the process, we were amazed how many people kind of find a place to come and talk about impact and start build about impact and connect. And then we met other great communities in the ecosystems, like WADA and Gimber Labs and Swarm and other community that all of them are kind of bringing together and onboarding people and connecting people to this great technology. So it was kind of mind-blowing. And in the beginning, I mean, yeah, I mean, through these 2 years, I mean, it's really mind-blowing, the people we meet and the discussion we have and the real passion to build something new. People from all over the world, from all from different countries, different experiences and background, and it's really mind-blowing. And it's important to say that when we speak about impact, at least when we work, for us, it's impact as an opportunity for the ecosystem, right? We see it as a potential, not just to do good, but as a potential to actually scale and do impact and change industries which supposed to be impactful, like microfinance or carbon markets or agricultural supply chains. So we are really looking how to work together and build these solutions and support these solutions that can transform these industries and be very impactful. So it's really mind-blowing. And what we do within Cardano for Climate and other communities is we focus on onboarding impact companies to the ecosystem. So more impact companies will bring more use cases we work on, more it can be impactful, helping them to get investment, collaborations. And we also support impact projects that are working on different ideas of projects helping them to design, and some of the team members, including myself, actually building solutions as well. So on agriculture supply chains or carbon market. So that's kind of the journey. It's really mind-blowing, and it's just the beginning. And what we see with the progress of tech, and the focus now is moving, if last year was kind of getting in, meeting people and discussing all the system, we go into this year where we see a lot of use cases being built. And that's really exciting transition to see what's happened this year. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey.
Thanks so much, Yoram. And what you say about building for good, but also for scale and impact of the Cardano blockchain kind of gets me to move to Alvaro and the work that they've been doing at Switzerland for UNHCR with a charity stake pool. One of the first things I remember when I joined the foundation late in 2020, just after the Shelley era, was how we had a number of different stake pools in the ecosystem that were mission driven, that would use their staking rewards for charities to fund them. I remember quite a number of them, and that had actually inspired a lot of the work that we started looking into with Switzerland for UNHCR. And for any of our viewers that do not know what a stake pool is, essentially it's a computer server that runs the Cardano node to validate transaction and produce blocks. And each of these pools holds a combined stake of ADA, and many owners can delegate to this single entity. And the rewards by the pool are then shared between the operator and their stakeholders. And often some of these stakeholders are actually charity. We've seen a group of stake pools like Climate Neutral Cardano come together to run a charity ISPO since last year. They've been quite successful at that. And I think this is really the community's innovation that's inspired the foundation in its work with Switzerland for UNHCR. And I'd like to talk to Alvaro a little bit about this and ask him about the history behind the project and our collaboration, and what the journey's been since the stake pool WRFGS as a ticker has been launched in January earlier this year. Alvaro, over to you.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. And first of all, don't be afraid of the acronym. WRFGS stands for With Refugees, which is pretty much what we stand for. And we like complicated acronyms, just only the organization I work for, UNHCR, meaning UN Refugee Agency. You don't guess it immediately, but I know we're getting better, we're improving this, but it takes, step by step, a little bit, baby steps, a little bit like it's been so far for us as well at Switzerland for UNHCR. A steep learning curve where sometimes we felt a bit overwhelmed, but more than that, simply amazed by all this new universe that just opened in front of us. And it was very mind-blowing to meet people from the community in person, online, at Paris Blockchain Week, NFT convention, consensus, but also during podcasts, during Twitter spaces. And to be completely honest, as soon as you mentioned blockchain and crypto back in the days, you had a few people in our organization that let's say were a bit risk averse, that looked at us a little bit like the weird guys in town. For information, I work for Switzerland for UNHCR, which you could consider a little bit to be like a kind of a spin-off of UNHCR, meaning we work for UNHCR, but we are, let's say, a kind of a gateway in Switzerland that allows us to explore a bit more and see what could be working and adopted later on by the wider organization. And so obviously in that time, people hear about FTX, about other things like that. So I do think that education is key, and education will be key in the future as well. So a huge steep learning curve for us, and we learn and learn. But please remember that we'll never be a tech or blockchain organization. We are a humanitarian organization, and for this, partnerships are key. That's why we're so grateful of the Cardano Foundation and all the people from the community that we met so far, because they really took things slowly and took the time to really explain to us, like by educating us on what kind of use cases we could create and how it could work for us to reach our objectives, which are raising funds for refugees, supporting refugees here with funds and operations, but also on the field. And that's something that I mentioned quickly afterwards. But so questions like, how do you run a Stakeful? You know, the importance of the community management, different components linked to how to run the Stakeful, like simple things like pledge, native, like staking, and things that we had no idea about. So really, first step was to let's get involved with the community and hear about its members, about how can we support refugees, meeting people from the community, participating, I said, to Twitter Spaces, podcasts, meeting the people, but also creating projects like I don't know if you noticed them, but we had an amazing project with Endmaker and Turf, and many more in the pipeline still to go. Obviously Christian is here and Ralph are here today as well. You hear about them as well. So this was really about the community, but now we're also thinking today, what about inviting external traditional donors and supporters to join the community? That's also a route we're exploring so far. So is it like an alternative way to do philanthropy and support refugees? That's the questions that we actually thinking about and exploring. So many exciting things to do. And last but not least, we're also exploring ways now to see how blockchain and Cardano community can have an impact on our operations in the field and also in our headquarters. And we noticed again that education is key and will be key.
Thanks for that, Alvaro. And Hassan, fantastic that you joined us right on time. Hassan is one of our ambassadors and was actually one of the first people to reach out to us to understand how he and other members of the community could support Switzerland for UNHCR in their mission to become essentially a member of the Cardano community and to walk this Web3 journey with all of us. So Hassan, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and why you find this project important? And, how do you see the community contributing to it?
Yeah, certainly. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hassan Michael. A little bit about myself. I've been with the Cardano project since 2017. Came in as, a curiosity seeker. And the more I learned about the project, the more I fell in love with the method of development. I fell in love with basically the team, the moral compass and all of that. And after that, I was hooked on Cardano and I started to share the knowledge that I learned in the ecosystem with others. And over time, that led to me becoming an ambassador. I'm the Cardano South Florida ambassador for the entire Florida, you would say. And that ecosystem grew from 2 or 3 people over about 2 years to just about 1,400 now, if I'm not mistaken. So significant growth there if you're looking at the growth of the Cardano ecosystem on a local level, And over the course of the last, I would say 4 years, we were able to basically host a lot of events, including the Come Meet Charles event. From IOG and Cardano Foundation host the Cardano Summit down here, Satellite Summit as well. So that's a little bit about what I do on in the ecosystem. My profession is a software developer. I've basically been a stake pool operator, a software engineer, and entrepreneur. So you can see that I wear many hats. And that's a little bit of my background. Now, why did I fall in love with this project that the UNHCR is trying to work out with Cardano? For a lot of you who don't know me, my background starting in Liberia and transitioning to the US is one where I was a refugee. So when Alex and Alvaro approached me and discussed this, I had a significant amount of passion for this project because I've seen what the UNHCR has done for people like me and people who I travel with as refugees from the Liberian Civil War and coming down to the US, right? And I see the companies, the different companies to work with, like the International Organization for Migration that the UNHCR works with to basically help refugees find a better life or give them an opportunity, right? And so that really rang out, it touched me in a special way, because being a refugee doesn't define somebody, right? The status of a refugee is just people who are, what you would say, maybe forcibly removed or trying to find a better situation, living situation due to war, farming, maybe environmental, whatever the reason is for that refugee status, right? But it doesn't define them. These are people with potential. These are people with who can contribute to the world, and all they need is an opportunity, you know. And that's what the UNHCR provides, you know, in cases like this. In my case, to be more specific, I came as a refugee just out of high school, right? And I was given the opportunity by the UNHCR to travel to the US, or expense paid for, right? Through the International Organization for Migration. And I got here, and, you know, the United States of America certainly gave me the opportunity to become, you know, a college student. And I took that opportunity, and fast forward about 25 years later, here I'm a software developer in the Cardano ecosystem, an entrepreneur, a Cardano ambassador. So that's what this project brings to life, right? For others who haven't had that opportunity. So I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to contribute to it, because I know life's going to be changed in a personal way. And I'm a living example of that. So that's why I'm passionate about this project. Now, your third question is, how can people in the Cardano community contribute? Stake pool is an awesome way, right? I would say that would be the very first step. If you don't have, if you have resources to delegate to the UNHCR pool, I would say delegate, right? Because the rewards from there are going to change people's life like mine. You know, that's how we impact the world for good. It doesn't have to be some what you would call some dream in the sky, right? It has to be something you can do. And one thing you can do today is to go to the UNHCR state pool, delegate, right? And those rewards will be put to a good cause. So that's one thing I would say. And other ways you can contribute to is just by spreading the word, right? I know one thing it takes in the Cardano ecosystem, when you run a stake pool, I'm a former stake pool operator myself. So it takes a lot of marketing to get delegates, right? When you market to anonymous token holders, ADA holders, it takes a lot of message, because that marketing is not one where you know who you directly marketing to. So any exposure you can give this stake pool, whether it's in your local community, whether it's part of your project, whether it's just a pitch, I personally ask you to do that if you are a member of the Cardano ecosystem. So two ways you can contribute. One is by delegating directly, and two is just by spreading the word, so that we can help the stake pool reach saturation, because I'm a living witness of what the UNHCR can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan. And yeah, that's right. There are many ways that our community can get involved, and those two are some of the strongest ways that they can. And beyond that, I think what Alvaro mentioned is how much advice, guidance he's already received from you, from other people on this call, and from many others in the Cardano community, whether it be on Twitter or elsewhere. And you know, one of the ways that we've seen the Cardano community get involved is NFT projects that have come forward and said, hey, you know, why don't we collaborate on a NFT fundraise that's linked to the stake pool? And one of these was the collaboration between Turf and Maker and UNHCR, Switzerland for UNHCR, at Paris Blockchain Week and then Consensus. But many of you know Turf NFT as the project that did the Cardano Summit NFTs last year. but actually there's a really interesting story about how they got into contact with the Cardano Foundation. And I'd like to ask Ralph, can you tell us more about how this actually came about? And I think a little bit over a year ago where we first met virtually.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks first of all for inviting me to this panel. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ralph, co-founder of Turf, which is the cartographic art project on the blockchain. Some of you know us. We have a main collection, and we did by now quite a few collaborations, one of which is the Cardano Summit NFTs that Alex was also referring to. So yeah, the story about how we got to the point where we actually started this collaboration with UNHCR and NMaker, it's indeed quite an interesting one. It was over a year ago when we just started marketing our project on all the socials, on Twitter. We really wanted to make a big buzz there. But then the war in Ukraine broke out. And of course, like many other people, we sympathized a lot with the victims in the country. So what we immediately did was create a version of our art, which is cartographic. So it's a map. And that is also, I think one of the reasons why this concept is so applicable to many situations. But we created a version of a turf with the colors of the Ukrainian flag. And posted that on Twitter and said, like, take this as your profile picture if you stand by the people of Ukraine, etc. And that was really powerful. That got picked up quite well. And through that, I think we initially got in touch with you, Alex. We started chatting about possible collaboration and possible way of using our NFTs, our art, for charity. And back then it was still very high level and it didn't really materialize for a long time. I think you were already in very early discussions with UNHCR, but in the first few conversations we had, you weren't even allowed yet to mention their name. I seem to remember. So we were talking for months, and I think the takeaway of this story is persistence, and that's on Turf, but I think mostly on my colleague Harm, who really kept pushing, kept getting back in touch with the CF, with Alex. Even though it didn't materialize like very fast, it started happening, and we kept in touch with everyone involved in those projects. So then at some point we did the Summit NFTs, which was an amazing success and was really cool to do that project. And then fast forward to, I guess it was NFT Paris, which is like one of the main NFT conferences in Europe. we met up again, Alex and Alvaro, other people from the CF, to discuss potential collaboration opportunities. And then still, I think it wasn't really obvious what we were going to do until the last day of that conference. Then at some point, the idea of launching this charity collection on the Paris Blockchain Week was born. And then it suddenly happened very fast, because that was in a matter of 2 weeks where we went from ideation to execution. And I think that was a very impressive example of, our collaboration, the way UNHCR was actually able to make these steps and to make decisions really fast. So that was really, really cool. But again, if the too long didn't read of this story is really the persistence of us keeping in touch and not giving up, not thinking, okay, never mind, this is never going to happen anyway. But really, things can take time, especially with larger organizations like UNHCR, but also with the CF, of course. There's lots of interest and lots of stakeholders that need to be aligned on these projects. So, but in the end, it worked, and I think it was a great concept and a great proof of concept for the idea of using NFTs for good. And I definitely think that more collections will follow, not only with us, but obviously also with other NFT projects and collaborations, as Alvaro, I think, already touched upon earlier.
Thanks, Ralph. And for those of you that don't know, the concept behind the collaboration that Ralph was mentioning was to see if we could use NFTs at a live event as a form of charity giving activation. And we did that using a QR code that would link back to a web page that would then allow the event attendees to mint their NFTs. And they would have two choices. One, to support the 12 underfunded crises in the world that involve refugees, and the other to support the crisis in Ukraine. And so this was also an interesting way for UNHCR to understand, how people giving goes a certain way or another. And thanks again, Ralph, for your persistence, and also Harm if he's listening. And to move to Christian, with whom the kind of technology solution was built that enabled this kind of live minting and all of that. It'd be fantastic to hear from you a little bit more about nMaker's technology and how it made this particular mint possible. And what other kinds of use cases do you see with your technology stack when it comes to Switzerland for UNHCR's efforts in the coming year?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. So nMaker was launched, I think, 2 weeks after NFTs were possible on Cardano. And I'm one of the co-founders, and Patrick approached me back in the days with the idea of building nMaker as a tool that makes the Cardano blockchain accessible for everyone. Because as many of you may know, coding on Cardano is quite hard and developing even harder. So we decided to create a tool set of building blocks, no code and APIs, where developers and no development people can decide to launch their NFT collection or token collection on the Cardano blockchain without any barriers. And in our very first year, we focused on making it as easy as possible for the creators to get this collection up and running. So we made those no-code suites in a way that is really drag and drop, that you just have to put in a couple of information, a couple of fields, and then you're ready to go to launch your very first NFT collection. The second gap we closed in the second year was the gap facing the end consumer, because this was one of the problems that especially UNHCR had at the very beginning. They have millions of followers around the globe and people who would like to donate or who are donating already. But if we would tell them, hey, you have to create a wallet, and those are the 10 steps to do it, and then you have to buy ADA, and then you have to send the ADA to your wallet, and then you are able to buy the NFT, we would have lost, I would say, 99% of those people. So not only specifically for this use case, but overall for Cardano for Good and all business cases running on Cardano, we have developed our nMaker Pay checkout system. With nMaker Pay, you can decide whether or not you would like to pay with any kind of crypto, or you would like to pay with credit card. On your mobile phone, you can even pay with Google Pay and Apple Pay. And it's very smooth for the end consumer to get in touch and to support. But this is only the payment. The second thing was the wallet. So we decided, although it's not a decentralized way, it's good for a lot of people out there who have never heard about blockchain to start with a custodial wallet solution. So if you buy now, and I think it's still open, right? If you're buying UNHCR NFT with credit card, you will get an email that links you and guides you to the custodial wallet where your NFT is waiting for you. So even if you have never touched blockchain before, or you never bought an NFT, go to the website, give it a try. It was never easier, and I think all of us together did a great job in getting this project up and running. With this system in place, I think we're not only onboarding people to Cardano, but we are open doors for other projects to say, for example, 20% of our revenue goes for Cardano for Good. And it can be UNHCR for Good, but there are multiple wonderful projects on this blockchain that you can support. And you can just say, yes, was mentioned before, the stake pool. Yes, 20% of our revenue is directed to this stake pool of UNHCR, for example, and it will do good in the future. And I think a lot of your communities out there will appreciate that. And it's great to have this project up and running.
Thank you, Christian. And thank you for providing that infrastructure for the first 2 minutes that we've had with Cardano projects. And so just looking at the time right now and just kind of looking at what we've discussed so far about the Cardano community that really focuses on having a positive impact, whether it be through Switzerland for UNHCR or many other fantastic projects, looking at the diversity of projects that can contribute to this, as well as the need to bridge the gap between Web3 and Web2 audiences in order to kind of achieve that that change. I think we've covered quite a number of really interesting points. What I'd like to ask each of the panelists, and I'll just kind of name you one by one, is when it comes to using the blockchain, a Cardano blockchain for social good, what is your call to action to the community, the Cardano community watching us now, to other Web3 communities, maybe also to people that are not yet in Web3 and want to understand how it can have a positive impact in our world? So I'm just going to pick on the person to my right and start off with Rolf.
Yeah, sure. Well, the easiest call to action for me is to tell everyone, please go to unhr.nmaker.io, where you can actually still mint the collection, which was done for the consensus event held in Texas. So this is 2 collections, both for Ukraine and for the underfunded crisis, the way that Alex just explained. And that mint is still open for a limited amount of time. And also there's a limited number of NFTs that can be minted. I believe it's 500 per collection. So yeah, please go there and mint your NFT. There's like some nice gamified dynamics in there with like, you have the chance to mint the gold one. The art looks really fun. You can play around with it. So I definitely encourage everyone to get yours now. And I think the other one, and of course, that's what I explained before, hopefully this is just the start of using NFTs as rewards for people that donate to charity. And I'm really hoping that UNHCR will do more collaborations in the future. Of course, it would be fun if a few of them would be turf, but I'm imagining that it would be also cool to do lots of other projects, lots of other types of angles and NFTs. So for other NFT projects, yeah, I think be proactive about approaching people, come up with your own ideas, and really be persistent about getting things done, and then you can really make a difference.
Thanks, Ralph. And Alvaro, you're next. What's your call to action?
My call to action, I would say that blockchain is a new technology. I mean, if you look at the history, it's very recent, but it's even newer for an international organization like ours. So the call to action is really, do not be afraid to reach out to us and show us examples, tell us what you do and how we could actually together build use cases, bring the use cases. I read some in a chat that Kieran was talking about the tokenizing the social impact of secure land titles. That's something that's another super cool way to explore. And when refugees flee their home, they never think about, okay, let's see where I have my school diploma, my ID, or my land title somewhere. So, I mean, it's just the beginning, as Ralph was saying. I mean, the collaboration opportunities are there, and indeed, keep us posted. Come reach out to us on Twitter, on Switzerland for UNHCR Innovation Twitter handle, on the with refugees stake pool as well. We're open to discussion and to discover more what wonderful things we can do together.
Thanks, Alvaro. And up next we have Christian.
Yeah, I would like to invite everyone who has never built on Cardano to check out the process and the project that we have done with UNHCR all together. Because I think it shows perfectly that the Cardano blockchain and the Cardano community is not the community that throws money at you that you start building on Cardano, but it is a community that thinks outside of the box to get things done. What Ralph mentioned, that The collection for Paris Blockchain Week was done in 2 weeks of time. It was only possible because 20 people decided to work together for this common goal. In this case, it was Cardano for Good. So thinking about that, was it possible with a community that works hand in hand and that works for a greater goal? Something I would like to invite everyone who's not building yet on Cardano to check it out and to buy an NFT or to get in touch with UNHCR, with TURF, with the foundation or with NMaker, because we will welcome you with open arms.
Thanks, Christian. And Hassan, your call to action up next.
Thank you. Yeah, I think if I were to call community members within the Cardano ecosystem, is first to please go ahead and delegate to the stake pool. And secondly, if you can, let other delegates know they can be, they can have an impact on people's life personally, just by delegating to that stake pool, so they can also share the word as a form of viral marketing. And that would be my first call to action. But I would also like to see the Cardano community members look at the potential for this collaboration. And what I mean by that is within the refugee community, right? That's where they start. That's not where they end, right? These people come given the opportunities, right? Like myself, there's a world of what you call, let's say, payment, right? Remittance. That's something that the Cardano ecosystem can play a major part of, right? In the long run, in the Web3 ecosystem, where Cardano now becomes a major player in the remittance payment for people who have been helped by this ecosystem, right? That's just one thing. Another thing that comes to mind, currently I'm working on a project. I'm not well advanced yet, so I don't want to disclose that, but that has to do with digital identity, right? One thing when individuals leave their homeland, right, emotionally and metaphorically, they lose their identity, right? The Cardano ecosystem now, even by just partnering with the UNHCR, can now be that place that not only restores the identity, but maintain the identity from the initial point of exit from their war-torn country or their environmentally, disaster areas or so, things of that sort. So I want the members to see the opportunity that this collaboration is affording the Cardano ecosystem. So let's not take it lightly, right? We can be a force for good in the Cardano ecosystem, but we can also be a force for good for people in the rest of the world who are going through a traumatic situation, and they can use our ecosystem to maintain their identity, to maintain who they are. And like they said, I think it was, I think Ralph, if I'm not mistaken, who had mentioned that they can also, keep the land. I'll tell you, I had a piece of land in Liberia, and I went back to renew it after 20 years of the Civil War. They don't even have the tax records for that. So these are things the Cardano ecosystem can help maintain. But first, we must make sure this collaboration is successful for the UNHCR, so they can see the Cardano ecosystem as a worthy partner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan. And with Harm joining us on the tail end, I'd just like to tell our audience to open up for your Q&As before we move to Yoram on his call to action. You can use the Q&A box and we'll move there pretty soon. So Yoram, what is your call to action to the Cardano community?
Yeah, so we have an incredible opportunity. We had this opportunity 20 years ago with the internet and we kind of missed it. So, and we have now this opportunity to use this technology for good. A lot of people speak about collaboration. And that's kind of, we say climate change is a problem of collaboration, but are we really willing to collaborate? And I think this community is. So really the thing is, join the community. There's so many active communities. I didn't see any community in the ecosystem that is not for good, right? And trying to build something and help each other. And everyone is very welcoming. So join the community or create a space where you connect and collaborate and jump on board to do things. So that's really key, and educate and share the use cases. We have, different initiatives where we actually use the community to reach out and share use cases and reach out to other people. I mean, there's so many things to do if you want to be active, and it starts by connecting to people, right? Connecting to people, find the people you are connecting with, you feel good with, and start working together and collaborate. I mean, in our case, in Cardano for Climate, it starts, again, by Melanie saying, hey, who wants to create a climate change challenge on Catalyst? And from that, 2 years after, we had tens of events, hundreds of meetings, collaboration, supporting projects. So that's really amazing, just do it, as we say. And another thing is, one thing that we focus a lot on, and it was mentioned here, I mean, how we connect this technology to the ground, right? Really to the ground. So it's not only Web 2 to Web 3, but it's really to the ground, to the digital identities, as we mentioned, and land and agriculture, and how we make sure it goes to the ground. So use cases like that is really part of the focus that call to action for us for this period, which I think can be a game changer. Carbon market is one, everyone is speaking about that, but what really happened in this market, right? And so let's crack that. Let's figure out where the money goes, what's the impact, and that's this type of use cases can be really revolutionary.
Thank you so much, Yoram, and thank you again to all our wonderful panelists and audience that joined us here today. In the last 15 minutes of this webinar, we're going to move to a question and answer. So please make use of the Q&A tab in your Zoom. And what I'll do right now, there's some of the panelists already answering some of the questions that have been posed. I'll just go through them in chronological order. And the first one that came up was from Ben, asking, how can we bring more women and other underrepresented communities into this conversation? And this I'd like to open up to any of our panelists that would like to answer.
Sure, I can reach out. I mean, first of all, there's a lot, unfortunately, in this panel note, but there's a lot of incredible women on the ecosystem, but not enough, right? And there is Cardano Women and different initiative of great women working on a building on Cardano, and definitely need to do more than that. And also, through Project Catalyst, that used to be before, we used to have fund, dedicated for different regions like Africa, Cardano for Africa, or LATAM. It was focusing also on bringing people not only from the Western world basically on board. And I think that was very powerful. And groups like WADA and other groups again need to get much more support, I think, from the ecosystem. So yeah, great question, and definitely we need to focus on that. I mean, we cannot change the world if we will not be also a good representative of everyone in the world, right? So yeah.
Yeah, if I may add to that, I think it has to be a very conscious effort on the part of those of us who are already part of the ecosystem. I had similar problems with one of my company, one of the organizations I started called the Cardano Solution, and I had to make a very conscious effort with our team to recruit a female to be a part of that team, right? And it's one where we had to make her feel comfortable, number one. And then we also had to let her know what she represents to other women in the ecosystem. And reluctantly, she accepted, but she became part and she became a contributing member. So I think that responsibility is on us who are already part to be very, very inviting and welcoming to women in the ecosystem. And it doesn't just have to be in a developer role, right? It could be in other roles. And that's a task we have to take as our responsibility and not just hope happens.
Thank you so much for these answers, Yoram, Hassan. I think yeah, proactivity and inclusiveness are super important values. And again, the beauty of blockchain is permissionless, but making sure everyone has access to that permissionlessness is really important. And again, if we're speaking about this specific project that we're working on with UNHCR, we encourage community members, regardless of their backgrounds, to reach out to us and propose some parts of actions, as many have already done and are currently in the pipeline of this collaboration. So I'm going to move to the next question from an Anon, which asks, what role does collaboration play in leveraging the potential of blockchain for social impact? And how can different stakeholders work together effectively? Now, I'd like to direct this question to Harm, who's currently working on a really interesting project that is separate to Turf NFT, but I think has a big impact when it comes to that question.
All right, thanks, Alex. Yeah, that's actually a totally different project. It's called Glow Dollar, glodollar.org, which is all about reducing extreme poverty around the world. Basically, it's a 100% fiat-backed and regulated stablecoin, where if you hold it, we invest it in T-bills, and any of the proceeds we make from those investments, we donate to Give Directly, which is a charity that runs basic income programs for people in extreme poverty, and I've been doing that for years now. I think to actually answer the question, there are a number of aspects on how projects can collaborate, but I think the most important is seeking out ways that we can increase the pie. So actually delivering real world value to real humans that are in need of financial services. And because many of the problems that we are faced are much larger than just the people in just this call or in the existing crypto ecosystem. So I always encourage to think not just about, okay, how can we grow within the existing crypto ecosystem, but also how can we expand beyond the existing crypto ecosystem. And I think the collaborations with UNHCR, for instance, are also really fit strongly within this theme. And well, it's my personal dream to be able to, through Turf, at some point, gift NFTs to all donators to UNHCR, not just the ones that visit blockchain conferences or are within the crypto ecosystem, but just as an incentive for everyone out there. And I think that will be instrumental in onboarding the next millions and billions of people. And ultimately, that will lead to even more positive social impact too. That's the one thing I keep repeating.
Thanks, Harm. And when we're talking about collaboration, this is something that you've pushed quite strongly, Yoram. What can the Cardano ecosystem actually do better to collaborate in order to leverage our blockchain for positive social impact?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on. So even about Blue Dollar, I didn't even know where we were. And I mean, there's so much going on in the ecosystem, I think. And one of the of collaborating against through the communities. So if we think about it, we have a trusted ecosystem of people, and around that there is communities which is channeling a lot of collaboration. But one initiative that we are starting to do, for example, is a monthly event where we kind of share update and synchronize between the different impact projects happening, which I think will help a lot. So everyone can come, share their updates about the updates, what help they need, how they can help, and somehow to have a place where we kind of have a monthly update between all of us. I think that's very important. Yeah, but for me, a lot of this collaboration and challenge, like Cardano for Climate, a lot of the people that come, they come, we treat it like as a pathway, a corridor. They come, we connect them to the right places for collaboration, and then they go on to the right places. So I think the community is a very important role in that, in this collaboration aspect. And definitely, yeah, I mean, it's a big, in my head, I mean, one of the things that is how we connect all the dots. It's a big project that very exciting, because I think there's so many people doing impact all over, but we need to work together in order to move the needle comparing to the outside world. Like, so how can we impact the outside world? So we have to work together and not compete on the same budget, for example, when facing multinationals. So connecting all of us, it's really a big mission, and we are working on some system like that and tools with Gimbal Labs, the ecosystem for that.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'll direct this conversation about collaboration, but perhaps from a more tech point of view. Christian, what do you see as the role for collaboration when it comes to NFT projects for social impact using the blockchain?
I've seen a lot of projects with wonderful people working towards a wonderful goal. And a lot of those projects struggled in getting to a point where they execute the project. No matter if it's impact in raising money, impact in giving away something for free, whatever they wanted to do, they struggled because they had no deadline. And I think if we stick to this example of the UNHCR NFT launch, I think it was very good for us that we decided to work together. We had a shared vision, but we had a deadline with the Paris Blockchain Week upcoming. So this is something where I would say, if you work together, yes, tech is important, but vision is even more important. And if you combine it with a deadline, you're running the whole thing like a business. And that's something, if you want to raise money, for example, you have to run it like a business. And this is where a lot of people are struggling, because they think, oh no, it's for good. It's not a business. But this is the balance you have to find. And I think all of us here on the panel, we are happy to help. So again, please feel free to reach out. You have to pick up the phone and call. You have to write an email, get in touch, and something will happen. I don't know what will happen, but my way to NMaker was that I picked up the phone and they called Patrick because I saw him on a panel like this. And they called him 8 times before he picked up. Now we're here working on UNHCR together. So once again, get in touch. And from a tech point of view, I would say everything is in place. You can imagine to launch your first NFT collection for good.
Thank you, Christian. And just making my way over to the next question from an anonymous attendee, and just noting that we have 5 minutes left. Alvaro Hassan, what metrics or indicators do you see as a potential measure of the effectiveness and the success of the Switzerland for UNHCR project?
So maybe I'll go first, Hassan. So for this specific project, it's like we have like key indicators that are pretty much no-brainers. Obviously, first one being how much rewards do we get by people staking and delegating. Why it's important for us, it's I didn't mention that in the beginning, but it is a way for us to fund situations and crises that we struggle to fund, such as protracted crisis, forgotten crisis, because obviously you see Ukraine in the media, you see Syria, and they do deserve to be funded as well. Obviously, we also worked there, and we were amazed by all the supports we got when while they're making news. But there are like a lot of projects that we struggle to fund, and this will be a key project that will allow us to explore alternative sources of financing that will help us work there. And but other indicators should be created also that more like hands-on, like more like specific to a certain goal that we try to reach. And this is also the case for this 20% of reward being allocated into innovation funds. So we could, I think that an easy one could be to understand if the inflow educating field officers about blockchain, what blockchain can do for them, on one hand, like meaning see how many projects will be submitted in an innovation fund that uses blockchain and Cardano, but also the other way around, like see how many we will be launching as well, or how many attempts will be done. And of course, the ideal situation will be to have like refugee-led projects using blockchain from the field, because that's something that we bring here to the equation is real challenges, meaning that you guys are expert at creating solutions. We're never going to be as good as you guys. So we need your solutions to match our challenges. And that's why I think that's the perfect mix. That's the sweet spot that we're trying to achieve here, to reach here.
And if I'll add to that briefly, I think, and I'm speaking at large here, not just in regards to the UNHCR project, but for any metrics to indicate effectiveness of blockchain, I think we look at two things. Primarily, one is monthly access users, because the blockchain is one that creates utility in the form of decentralized application. And we have to take the metrics of how many users are actually consuming the services and utility of those applications. So if we were to do something for the UNHCR, then just like any other business, we have to see how well the users or the audience or the targeted consumers are engaged in the application. And I think another way is just to look at wallet creation, right? Because wallet creation is one way you can tell whether the ecosystem is actually gaining traction, whether people are coming in to participate in all of that. I mean, I can get more technical, but I think we're short on time, so I'll keep it at that.
Thank you so much again to all our panelists. I think this brings us to the end of our session. This was the second Let's Talk Cardano webinar, where we looked at conversations around how can blockchain be used for social impact. We covered a number of different projects and communities, and specifically spoke about the work that the Cardano Foundation and Switzerland for UNHCR are doing together with the Cardano community. And so we'd like to thank our panelists and our audience here today for joining us and having this wonderful discussion. Have a wonderful day or evening further. Take care.